Okay, Trell, since we are searching for cards and
As we do.
we've got a lot of cards. Alec is there.
Long way to go.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your deck building process. Oh yeah, Calvin's over there. He's.
I'm not even here, am I?
I want to ask you a little bit
Could be
about
helping.
your deck building process because I looked down and this is a stack of cards you've pulled out. So I'm assuming these are all sort of for some different deck ideas. What are you building right now?
I am building Super Quants. I'm building Mech Lords. I'm trying to build Dark Lords. I don't know what all y'all have for Dark Lords. I might need that too. Cool. I have enough of these now because I already own one. What else was I building? Or am I building? I'm building Quacky Marus. Like,
Oh, that's a little.
yeah, I'm doing that. I'm building I'm building Melodious. And there's something else I'm building right now. I can't think what it is, but I'm building a lot of things right now, you guys.
What? How does this all work? Like, how do you build this many decks at one time? I mean, for me, like, I can build like 3 decks at a time, maybe. Like, if I'm, kind of really into it. But like here, I managed to look at this. And there's all these cards. Like, what percentage of these decks get finished? Realistically, finished and played in like one tournament.
Now, realistically, about 90% of them actually get finished, but only about 60 to 70% of them actually get played in tournaments. The reason being is that sometimes I just don't feel like playing them, or sometimes I feel like it's not quite as good as I originally thought of it. Also, at my locals, people they target me. So I'm just gonna be sometimes they just want to beat me. So sometimes I gotta come with my A game, so I can't just play all my fun decks. But here lately, I've played it. First off, it's locals, so you just have fun. But I played enough decks and I've won enough to where I'm like, I'm just gonna start back playing decks I want to play and just say screw it. But with that being said, I always give each one of my decks some level of competitiveness, so that there's actually some strategy behind it.
I know you don't usually play these decks like completely pure. There's usually something.
Typically, you're right. Different. I will say though, like 2 weeks ago, I got top 4 with Abyss Actors, and it was pure at my locals, and it was a competitive locals, so I felt pretty good about that. And I was like, I'm just gonna start back doing that because at some point I was doing that. Like every week, I came with a new deck, whether it was good or bad. I just played it, and I kind of got out of that, and that's not me. Like I want to play what I want to play, whether it's good or bad to y'all. I'm good enough to make it good, so whatever. So that's just how I feel right now, and like. There's just so many cards in the game. Like everybody keeps talking about they're bored with the game, but I'm just not, because there's just so many cards in the game. There's so many things that people have not done, myself included. So I'm gonna start doing it.
So what are the qualities of these things that speak to you? Like when you see a card and like you kind of feel like there's maybe some potential in it, is it more like, oh, I know something else this works with, or this just seems like a strong maybe staple card that people aren't playing? Like what attributes of a card usually catch your eye?
Number one attribute of a card for me is surprise factor. Of course, we are also used to playing meta and seeing meta and things like that, and things that are staple, as people like to say, our Yu-Gi-Oh terms. That we don't pay attention to the fact that there are other cards out there that have really good effects that are obscure because nobody ever pays attention to them. So a lot of decks that I play, even with the Abyss Actor thing I played, only a handful of people that I played knew what some of the cards did. Because they just never read them. They didn't care to because it wasn't a deck that got any light. And so a lot of times I was doing combos that just never knew what to stop because they didn't know what they did and they had to read them all. And so that right there automatically makes it fun for me because now you got to read my cards and you don't know what I'm doing. And even if you find out what the cards do, that doesn't mean that that's what I'm doing with the card. Another thing for me is also, like I said, some kind of cards that have really good effects. Whether you know the effect or not, sometimes you don't want to take the time to actually summon it properly or do it the way it's supposed to make it effective. And I feel like if I can do that and make it stick, a lot of times I'm going to win the game, and a lot of times I do win the game. So I go with things like that. There's just so many things in this game that people just don't pay attention to, that they just choose not to, that I love it.
So currently Mech Lords is what we're building. That's one of the things you're building. It's one of the things we've been searching for amidst all of this, and we've still got a few boxes to go.
Thank you guys.
Break down the basics of Mech Lords as it pertains to what you're doing with it. Because I'm sure people know how it works in general.
Mech Lords is a deck that has monsters that don't seem like they do a lot, and actually in this game, in this format, they really don't. But being able to drop big monsters for free at almost any time is actually paramount. Like we're in a format where control isn't that great. You can play control, but it's not that great. And I'm not control. Not control. Excuse me, combo. Combo isn't that great, but you can play combo. But control is better. But with this, like my monsters, I drop monsters. Most of them, their effects don't even really matter given the format, but they're big, and there's not a lot of board wipes that are out there. So once you make an established board of big monsters that are hard to remove or that can recur themselves, your opponent has a lot of problems with that. It just really does. I mean, you see Drytrons, they don't do a lot till they do something. They just keep putting monsters out there until they do something. And that's kind of how Mech Lords is. Obviously, it's not as great as Drytrons. I'm not saying that. But they have the same thing where they can just recur a lot of monsters. They can put a lot of things on board just out of nowhere. They can proc their own effects. They put your opponent in a position where they proc your effects. When you do things like that, you kind of control the board. Not an unbeatable strategy by any means, but at the same time, doing it the right way, like you can win a lot of games because it's like I said, it's just so hard for your opponent to get around it. Because again, first off, they don't know what the cards do, and second off, something's gonna work. They can't stop it all. So.
Other thing is Tindangles. I know I was pulling out some Tindangle cards you were looking for, and like some weird trap, but I don't even know if that was for the same deck.
It was.
What about, how did you find yourself building Tindangles?
Tindangles was just another bad deck that I thought looked cool. Now Tindangles is a bad deck. I'm telling everybody right now, do not build Tindangles. You'll be heartbroken. They don't have a win condition. And for all you diehard Tindangle fans out there, I'm not going to apologize because I like Tindangles a lot. They don't have a win condition. But they are fun to do things with, and so I'm going to keep doing things with them. I would say that of all the decks that I built, Tindangles will probably be one of the worst, if not the worst deck ever that I've ever built. But I'm still going to build it, and I'm still going to play it. And of course, like you said, I never personally play anything pure anyway. So there'll be some spice in it, as much spice as I can make go with it. But it'll.
And you're building it to face
flow.
a crawler deck, right?
Yes, I have a friend of mine. He loves crawlers. I like Tindangles. We like both of the decks together actually, but he chose crawlers, and I'm going to play Tindangles. And we're going to have a match, and I think it's going to be a very, very fun match. I think I'm going to get slaughtered, but at the same time, I think I'm going to have a really good time because one, he's a really cool guy to duel, and two, like I said, these are just decks where we can just kind of like throw caution to the wind. You can do whatever you want with the deck. There's no trying to think of, oh, he sided this or this card's really good in the meta. It's just like, this is my Tindangle, this is your crawlers, your deck does that, my deck does this. Let's see what happens. And that's what we're going to go with.
All right, and I guess for the last question, what's one card in the stack that you don't think anyone has literally has any idea what the card does?
Just anyone just off top?
Just off the top, any of these cards.
Probably, yeah, it'd probably be Gurgan's in. It's a Tindangle trap, so they should know what it is.
Okay.
And sometimes I forget the full effect because it's a lot of words. I just know.
Tindangle card.
Yeah,
They didn't call it Tindangle.
That's not. But most of the Tindangle cards don't have Tindangle in the name. They just have Tindangle in the card text. So hopefully they'll get a card that searches out cards that have card text for Tindangles. But but I'm just gonna show it to you. I'm not gonna tell you what it does. I'm just gonna show you because
Yeah.
some people have never even seen this card before, and they never read it. So.
All right, well, I guess that's pretty much all. This is just kind of impromptu. I figure since we're searching for cards,
if you want to play a deck, if you want to play a card, you play it. Like I said, there are a lot of cards in this game that just have really good effects that nobody really just thinks about. Like their cards, and then when that deck or that card tops or whatever, oh my god, this card is so good. Where were you when that card came out? And the card's always been good. You just never took the time. But somebody else did, and they proved it. So, I'm one of those guys that like to prove the cards are good. Decks might be bad. But sometimes they work. Sometimes they just have really good cards in them. So I'm going for that.